Okay, Siraj, so I'm going to answer your questions here really quickly. So, you are asking me what inspired you to become a psychologist. And so, I'm still working on psychologist. So, but I am a mental health counselor right now. I am in my dissertation for my psychology degree, hopefully to be done by June of this year. And so, but what that inspiration was, I think after I finished my clinical degree and got my licensure, I'm just doing the next goal, the next step. Um, Early on in my career, I had a personal goal that I would get my PhD before I turned a certain age. And I realized a couple of years back that it was approaching and I hadn't achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve. I I became one of the first people in my family to get a higher education degree that wasn't steeped in some type of a I'm like in a trade school and go to school for a year, learn how to be a mechanic type of thing. So I was the one that went to traditional education and obtained a degree, a master's degree, and soon PhD. And so that probably was the motivation behind the PhD degree, not so much becoming the psychologist. Um, Psychology for me was the next step for mental health counseling, and it gave me a way to be able to integrate both the spiritual places, religion, and the mental health and psychological world of how we think. So that's how I um, got my inspiration to pursue that particular degree. All right, question number two. How do you feel that this was your calling? Hmm. So, do I feel that becoming a psychologist or a mental health counselor was my calling? So this is interesting because when I first entered into the workforce, I've worked many jobs. I've did many things. When I first started out, I wanted to do computer graphics. I liked drawing pictures on the computer. I liked the way that the small steps became a big tapestry, a big picture. So I liked that part about computer graphics, but I just didn't necessarily like the writing code part, being behind the scenes and writing the code for these things to happen. I just wanted to work the program. So I started there, and I started as an artiste, drawing, and I was at Lynn Benton College at that point, and I moved here. And me and my husband went to Northwest. Well, at that point, it was Eugene Bible College, which is the old New Hope. And so we went to Eugene Bible College, and I went into counseling. I wanted to be a pastoral counselor. I knew we were going to start a church, that was the call on his life. At that point, we were, and I say on his life because I didn't necessarily see myself as a first lady or a pastor. I just knew I was called to this man at that point. Um, so I went from Eugene Bible College studying counseling to Northwest Christian to do a business degree because we became pastors somewhere between here and there. We founded a church and we needed to know how to run the church and how to run a business. And so we went to Northwest Christian College to be business minded, to learn all of the stuff that traditional education just didn't teach us. And so we went to do that. And while I was there and building this church, I realized that there were pieces that we did not know. And I still like to see the small pieces of people's lives come together and become a whole. In the midst of building a church and being a pastor and going to school, I switched jobs and became an archivist, which for the city of Eugene, it was my job to manage the city's archived records. So I'd spend my day digging for hidden treasures, things that was written way back when, and pulling that together with new codes and new ordinances that were being constructed today. and seeing how do we integrate the old and the new. Now you see I'm going somewhere, right? And so the Lord taught me that. He taught me patience in searching through the rubble and searching through insignificant paperwork. And I hated looking for stuff. But that was the job that I did, and because I was good at it, I got promoted to manage a team of people that would help me to search for these documents and to organize a big warehouse of the city's documents. So I did that for 7 years. From there is, by that time, I was at the apex of my mental health counseling degree. I was taking a trip to Moldova, Russia, to help domestic violence families with counseling, to do a study abroad. That's what the program was. I spent a month in Moldova. And it was in the midst of all of these different types of things that I realized that God was making me who I believe I am today. I'm someone who can bring the old in and compare it with the new and shake out the rubble. Whatever doesn't matter, whatever does not affect what we're doing, let's discard it, and let's take the foundations of what I know to be true, and let's take the remnants of trauma, the remnants of what I have left, and let's figure out how to build a new wall out of old stones. So that's how I kind of came upon this calling. I don't know if it was just a light bulb that came on in the beginning or throughout the process of time and being obedient when God said switch and when he said learn this and when he said do this, just being obedient, and all of that learning, none of it fell to the ground. And so that became, helped me to become who I am today. All right. How did you find Christianity? Well, I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ. My mom was a Christian. My dad was an alcoholic. He was an abusive alcoholic. He was just a talk too much when he get drunk alcoholic. And but he was a sweet man. He passed away in 2004. And so my mom took us to church. We went to church all the time. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, choir rehearsals, young people willing workers, Friday night evangelist service, Saturday we were there helping clean the church and prepare stuff for Sunday. We were there all the time. And so in the midst of that, that's how I was raised. That was my foundation. That was my go-to anytime there was trouble or things happening, or that was my go-to. And so me and my sister both, we learned that. And my sister obtained a scholarship here at Oregon State University. She was one of the Twin Towers that played for Oregon State University in basketball. And a part of the deal with having her come this far, because my mom was very uncertain about sending these girls this far away from home, is I had to go with her to college. And so the coaches there was very gracious. They found an apartment for me to live in. They got me in school in Benton. They helped me find a job in Corvallis, and me and my sister lived there together. And I bring this up because I think that's where true Christianity became the heart for me, where it was just not something mom made me do, but in the midst of hard times and mom being 2,000 miles away, that was all we knew how to do, was to pray. That's when my prayer life became honed, and I began to trust God for what I needed, and man, did he come through. So I think that was where we really began to blossom and sharpen the things that we learned. Let's see. Is there anything that you would change in your life? I've asked myself this question multiple times. Is there anything that you would change in life? Knowing where I am today, knowing every season, every storm, everything that I've come through, that every pothole was a part of a class that the great rabbi was holding, whether it was Patience 101, Long Suffering 202, or Relationships 303. Every class that I was in, I learned something. And so I've asked myself this question many times, and I've always come to the same conclusion, that out of it all, I wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't try to jump faster in the ministry. I wouldn't try to run away from it. I wouldn't change how me and my husband came together and founded the church. I wouldn't change even some of the trauma. As God came in and ministered to us, that's when I began to know him even closer, and a renewed faith and renewed relationship I wouldn't change any of it. Even my schooling and the friends that I've met. There's a group of friends that I still meet with today as counselors. And we look back on the times that we first, was green and coming in and sitting around the classroom table and asking what we thought was silly questions. Now today we know that there's no silly question. It's all about our learning. I value all of it. And so I thank God for it. So I wouldn't change any of it. Let's see. How does your career tie into Christianity? So today, this will be the second year that I've been in private practice for myself. And I went into private practice for myself because I wanted to be able to integrate both worlds. I wanted to be able to bring Christianity, faith-based, to psychology. And see people's lives become whole, where we work on mind, body, soul, and spirit. We work on all of it. We bring it all together. I couldn't do that in the organizations. There was all these stipulations and things that I had to be careful about. If the client didn't bring it up, I could not bring it up. If the client approached the conversation, and I had to be careful about influencing their decisions so that everything was about them leading the sessions. Now, I still do some of that today, where I allow clients to lead the session, but coming in the door, they know that I am a pastor. Coming in the door, they know this is a Christian-based establishment. Coming in the door, they know that I will integrate what God says about their life into our sessions. I think that's very different, because that becomes the power behind the plan. And so I like that. I like that I can do that. I like that the presence of God meets us here in this space. And people may ask, man, there's a shift. When I came into this office, I can feel something different. And I just ask, well, what do you think that is? And how do you feel it? And where do you feel it in your body? Does it change your thoughts? And if it changes your thoughts, how did it change your situations? Without ever saying, hey, that's the presence of God. They know it. They already feel it. I don't have to announce what they already know. I just have to explore the changes that His presence makes in their lives. So that's me in a nutshell. I think that's all the questions I see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what I see here. So I'm going to send this to you, and I pray it helps you with your paper. All right, goodbye. Good luck.